Beloved child, breathe with me now. In this quiet moment, 9 minutes that are wholly yours, feel the weight you have carried begin to soften. I come to you not as a stranger at your door, but as a familiar presence that remembers the rhythm of your heart. Let the first inhalation be a gathering of all the scattered pieces. Let the exhale be a gentle release of what no longer serves you. You are invited into a short sanctuary of calm where something tender and true can begin to mend. Trust this time. Trust the sensation of being held, even if you cannot see the hands that hold you. There is a divine intelligence that witnesses every tear you have ever shed, every silent self accusation, every night you stayed awake replaying a harsh word or a missed chance. Those moments are not wasted. They are the softening that precedes growth. I want you to know you are not defined by injury. You are not the catalog of hurts. You are a living, breathing soul whose capacity to heal is as real and as vast as the sky. Sometimes we mistake the scars for the whole of who we are. This is understandable because scars are visible, loud, and stubborn. But beneath and beyond those marks is an unbroken essence that remembers joy, purpose, and the simple wonder of being alive. Imagine now a gentle blue light, the color of early morning, surrounding you like a robe. This light holds no heat of judgment, only a steady, cool presence that includes everything you are. It flows through the tightness in your chest, the hollows around your ribs, the clenched jaw you barely notice until you relax it. With each breath, it travels deeper, untying knots of old fear and carrying them away with the tide. You may feel relief or a stirring of memory. Both responses are perfectly fine. Allow whatever comes. Feel supported by this light as it steadies your breath and steadies your heart. You have carried burdens meant for no single pair of shoulders. You have tried to be many things at once: caretaker, fixer, peacemaker, soldier. These roles can be noble and kind, yet they can also exhaust you when the cost is your own peace. Accept, for this brief passage, that it is okay to be ordinary. It is okay to feel small, to admit you are tired, to lay down the armor that no longer fits. Strength is not only in continuous doing. Profound strength resides in the humility of rest. Rest is not giving up. It is a sacred practice of replenishment. Within these 9 minutes, give yourself that permission. Let the armor fall away. Let the shoulders drop. Let your hands unclench. You are allowed to be soft. Hear this clearly. You have been surviving, and now you are learning to be healed. Survival skills served you in seasons of hardship. They are not flaws. But there comes a time when surviving is no longer sufficient for the life you are meant to live. Healing invites you to remember your wholeness, not to erase the past, but to transform it into a source of wisdom and compassion. Each wound carries with it a teacher if you will only look gently. Ask yourself not, "Why did this happen to me?" in a tone of accusation, but "What has this taught me about my needs, my boundaries, my capacity to love?" When you shift the question, the sting lessens and the lesson becomes luminous. There will be days when the past calls to you like a strong current. When that happens, anchor in your breath. Imagine roots descending from the soles of your feet, penetrating deep into the earth, drawing up steady strength like water rising in a well. This grounding does not ignore your pain. Rather, it gives it a foundation from which to unfurl rather than unravel. Plant your attention in the present, a palm against your heart, the sensation of air moving in and out, the small comforts you can name. These are lifelines. Clutch them when the tide is high. You are worthy of gentleness. I say this with the force of a promise. Worthiness is not something to be won through deeds or performance. It is your true nature. When voices, external or internal, whisper that you must earn affection, approval, or acceptance, know them for what they are, echoes of old wounds, not the truth of your soul. Your worth is inherent. Breathe that in as you would an offering. Let it fill the hollow places. Let it be a soft, steady light that does not fluctuate when the world grows loud or critical. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as condoning what was wrong. It is something else entirely. Forgiveness is the liberation of your hands so you may hold beauty again. It is you reclaiming the space inside your chest from bitterness so there is room for laughter, curiosity, and love. You may choose to forgive others, and if you cannot yet, begin with forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is a quiet revolution. It says you will no longer punish yourself for being human. Perhaps you did what you thought was best then with the resources you had. Perhaps you made mistakes. This is still part of your story, but not its final chapter. Honor the small victories. Tend to them as you would a fragile plant. Waking up when the world feels heavy, calling a friend, saying no when your heart says no. These are all victories that deserve celebration. They accumulate. Strength is often a mosaic of tiny acts, not only the dramatic moments you remember. Keep a soft ledger in your mind of these wins. When despair looks like a long tunnel, illuminate the pathway with these small lights of achievement. They will guide you step by step. There is power in naming your feelings. When you sit with sorrow, anger, or shame and give them words, they lose some of their mystery and grip. Speak them aloud if you can. Write them down if speaking is too close. Language is a bridge from chaos to order. It does not fix everything instantly, but it places the pieces where you can see them, and seeing is the first move toward mending. If tears come, let them. Tears are not weakness. They are the body's natural alchemy, washing the edges of wounds until clarity appears. Ask for help. This is not a sign of failure. It is a declaration of courage. To reach out is to say, I am willing to be known. There are hands ready to hold yours, and friends, and family, and counselors, and gentle strangers. Allowing another to enter your space with care is not vulnerability for its own sake. It is a cooperative act of healing. Sometimes the mere presence of a compassionate listener turns a wound into a sunrise. If you do not yet have such a person, begin by seeking one. Small steps toward connection will widen your world. You must find a practice that feeds your spirit. For some it is prayer, for others meditation, for some it is movement or music. What matters is not the form, but the fidelity. Show up to this practice as you would tend to a beloved's need. Even 5 minutes daily can alter the architecture of your inner life. These acts cultivate resilience like a gardener cultivates soil, slowly, with patience. Over time, the roots go deeper and storms are less devastating. Let us talk about courage in a way that honors truth. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward with fear present. You will feel apprehension when you step into a new chapter. Expect it, honor it, use it as a compass rather than a barricade. Each time you step forward despite trembling, you widen the possibilities within you. You teach yourself that fear is a guest, not the host. Remembering this will transform the way you engage with life. Gratitude is a subtle, powerful medicine. It does not dismiss pain. Instead, it enlarges the field so that light and shadow coexist without either obliterating the other. Each day, name 3 small things for which you are grateful. It could be the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of distant laughter, a cup of tea that tasted like comfort. These are not empty platitudes. They are anchors that recalibrate your nervous system toward delight. Over weeks, this practice rewires you toward noticing abundance rather than scarcity. Boundaries are acts of self-love. You are learning to say no when a relationship depletes you, to step away from obligations that are not yours to carry, to protect your time and energy. This is not selfishness. It is the stewardship of your spirit. Picture boundaries as fences around a garden. They do not keep out care or kindness. They preserve the space where your heart can grow. Practicing them will initially be uncomfortable because you are changing a pattern. Stay with the discomfort. The result will be a clearer, safer interior. Forgiveness of the self and setting of boundaries often go hand in hand. When you recognize your limits, you no longer punish yourself for them. You accept them and arrange life accordingly. This acceptance is a radical tenderness. It tells your inner child, I see you, and I will care for you. It allows you to stop striving for impossible standards and to begin living according to what is sustainable and nourishing. There will be times when healing feels like 2 steps forward and 1 back. This ebb and flow is natural. Progress is rarely linear. Honor the regressions as part of the trajectory, not as defeats. When you stumble, acknowledge it without grand epithets of failure. Speak to yourself as you would a timid friend. Offer encouragement. Offer patience. Every compassionate act toward yourself is a stitch in the fabric of recovery. You are not alone in your longing for wholeness. Across time and space, generations have yearned and mended and discovered that wounds can become windows, clear openings through which light enters. Your sorrow, when tenderly held, becomes a source of empathy. Your story, when shared, gives someone else permission to begin again. There is holiness in this mutual exchange. It is why your healing matters far beyond your own self. It ripples outward into the lives you touch, often in ways you cannot immediately see. Practice ceremonies of closure when necessary. A written letter you do not send, a quiet ritual by candlelight, a dedicated breath. a symbolic letting go. These actions give the psyche a mark of transition. They do not erase the past. They inscribe a new meaning over it. Choose small ritual acts that resonate with you. They need not be ornate. Simple, sincere gestures hold more power than elaborate ones when they are genuine. Embody tenderness in your relationship with time. Time is not an enemy that forces you to hurry your grief through. It is a companion that walks with you as layers of healing accumulate. Some seasons will feel like spring, some like winter. All are part of the pattern. Allow the necessary duration for growth. In the meantime, cultivate small joys that make days luminous. A morning song, a photograph that warms you, the touch of a pet, a book that feels like an old friend. These are not distractions. They are stitches of living that make healing possible. When anger arises, let it have its voice in safe ways. Anger can be a righteous guide, showing you where boundaries were crossed or where integrity needs reclaiming. Do not let anger ossify into resentment. Channel it into constructive movement, clear communication, decisive action, or physical exertion that exhausts it into calm. Transforming anger is alchemy. It converts heat into force that builds rather than burns. Hope is not a naive promise. It is a practical, persistent light you choose to carry. Hope will not always feel grand. Sometimes it is the faintest flicker that refuses to go out. Protect that flicker. Water it with small acts of self-kindness, with connection, with intentional rest. Let your hope be practical, small, consistent choices that lean into possibility. Over time, those choices accumulate into momentum. Know that you are infinitely loved. Even when you doubt, when you feel unlovable or broken, there exists a love that is not conditional. It moves like tides, indiscriminate and faithful. You are seen. You are known. This knowledge does not erase pain, but it accompanies you through it with a steady hand. When you are ready, call on that love. Let it move through you and fill the spaces that ache. Allow it to rearrange the furniture of your inner life so that there is more room for laughter, curiosity, and delight. Finally, become a witness to your own life. Watch with compassion how you respond, how you forgive, how you grow. Celebrate the quiet courage of showing up. In the days to come, carry this brief 9-minute visit with you as a talisman. Return to it when storms rise. Let it be a reminder that healing is both a mystery and a practice, a grace and a choice. You are not broken beyond repair. You are in process, and the process itself holds meaning. When you open your eyes after these minutes, do so slowly. Place one hand over your heart and one over your belly, acknowledging the continuity of breath and the beating that has kept you alive through all seasons. Whisper to yourself, I am here. I am healing. I am held. Let those words sink in like seeds. Tend them kindly. I walk beside you now and always, with a sword of light not to cut you away from your humanity, but to clear the path ahead, and with wings wide enough to shelter every tender part of you. Stand gently. Begin again. Take this next breath as a soft promise to yourself, not a vow of perfection, but an intention to keep coming back. Healing rarely happens in a single, spectacular turning. It arrives in patient accumulation, in the tiny repairs you make day by day. So let the next moments be a quiet covenant that you will return again and again to practices that restore you, to companions who mirror your worth, to rituals that mark progress even when it feels small. There will be nights when the wounds feel fresh all over again, as though some tender scab has been picked at by memory. In those hours, be tenderer than you think necessary. Wrap yourself in a familiar comfort, a blanket, a song, the scent that reminds you of safety. Speak to yourself aloud. I am allowed to be tender tonight. If sleep is restless, breathe in a rhythm that slows your pulse. Count 4 in, pause, count 6 out. This elongation of the out breath draws the nervous system toward rest. Small, repeated practices like this accumulate into a new baseline for your body and soul. Create a sacred container for your pain. This might look like a journal where you pour unfiltered truth, a drawer where you place objects that mark transition, or a playlist of songs that allow the feelings room to move and then leave. When emotions are given a respectful container, they are less likely to leak into every corner of your life. Naming a box or a page as today's sorrow is not to minimize it. It is to give it boundaries so you can still hold your life without being overwhelmed. Remember to forgive the timeline. There are seasons of rapid bloom and seasons when nothing seems to stir. Both are holy. Sometimes the deepest growth happens beneath the surface, unseen, slow, steady. Trust the subterranean work. Be patient with your own tempo. The culture of instant fixes will lie to you about speed. Healing rarely keeps those promises. Instead, measure your progress in the softening. Less reactivity when triggered, a clearer memory of joy, a curiosity returning to places that once felt dangerous. These are the true metrics. Let beauty be a daily medicine. Seek it deliberately. Morning light slanting in, the curve of a leaf, a line of poetry that lands like a small blessing. Beauty is not frivolous. It is an alignment that reminds your nervous system you belong in this world. When your eyes learn once again to register wonder, the heart expands in ways that practical remedies cannot reach. Tune your senses to the small, exquisite things and watch how your interior landscape shifts. Cultivate friendships that reflect back your dignity. Not every relationship will be able to meet you at every moment, and that is okay. But invest in those who listen without fixing, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your small victories. Relationships are laboratories for practice. Practice in honesty, practice in asking for support, practice in receiving care. If you find yourself in patterns of one-sided giving, allow a quiet reevaluation. Love is most sustaining when it is reciprocal enough to keep both parties nourished. Practice gratitude as a muscle rather than an exercise in optimism. Train it by naming specifics. Not, I am grateful for my life, but I am grateful for the warmth of my hands this morning. Or, I am grateful that someone called me when I felt low. Specificity helps the brain map where goodness resides. Over time, gratitude becomes a lens rather than an event. It reorients perception toward noticing repair instead of only loss. When the temptation to ruminate returns, intervene with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is the story I keep telling about this pain? Is it complete? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? Often, rumination is a looping story with missing pages. By interrogating the narrative gently, you create room for revision. You do not erase the past. You reinterpret it with the fuller context you have now. Create rituals of remembrance that are gentle and honoring. Light a candle on a certain day to acknowledge a loss, or plant a seed in memory of a hurt that taught you something. Rituals anchor the psyche. They are not mere theatrics, but meaningful transitions that signal to the body and spirit that something has shifted. Make these acts simple and repeatable so they can be returned to as needed. Lean into creative expression. Healing is often nonverbal. It lives in movement, paint, music, and metaphor. Allow yourself to make something without the pressure of it being good. Scribble, hum, dance badly in your kitchen. These are not frivolous acts, but channels through which the interior world speaks and rearranges itself. Creativity loosens what is stuck and allows new forms to emerge. When you find the courage to forgive others, understand it as reclaiming your freedom rather than condoning harm. Forgiveness is a strategic choice you make for your own liberation. It does not require reconciliation or forgetting. Sometimes forgiveness is an internal act that is best held private, a letting go that frees the heart to receive goodness again. If setting boundaries is necessary afterward, do so. Forgiveness and boundary setting are often siblings in the work of preservation. Notice the language you use about yourself. Words have weight. Replace absolutes. I will always be broken with gentler truths. I am learning. I am healing. I have been wounded and I am recovering. These linguistic shifts create new neural pathways. Speak to yourself with the kind of language you would offer a beloved. The tone you use matters as much as the content. Allow for professional support when the burden is too much to carry alone. Therapy, counseling, spiritual direction, group support. These are not last resorts, but tools. You would not try to navigate a complex illness without a doctor. Similarly, do not hesitate to bring skilled help into your emotional care. There is strength in choosing support. It is an investment in the quality of the life you are building. Hold an image of the future that is not dismissive of the past. Envision not a life without memory, but a life in which memory sits beside joy, where lessons are integrated and no longer tyrannize the present. Imagine a morning when you wake and the first thought is not fear, but curiosity. What might delight me today? Let this image be a lodestar, something to orient toward when inertia threatens. Practice saying yes to small pleasures. A cup of tea taken slowly, a walk without an agenda, a film that makes you laugh. Joy is not an indulgence. It is a necessity for a balanced soul. Allow pleasure in modest doses if it feels unfamiliar. It will not negate your grief. Rather, it will show you that the capacity for delight has not been erased. Remember, strength and softness are not opposites. There is a way to be strong that is tender, to be resilient that is gentle. Imagine strength as the willow tree. It bends with the wind, yet remains rooted. Seek that pliability. Let your inner life be flexible enough to yield when needed and firm enough to hold when required. Make room for the sacred in ordinary moments. The sacred is not only found in dramatic visions, but also in the ordinary. A shared smile, the giving of a cup of water, hands warmed by sun. Practice sensing presence in these small gestures. This will build a daily habit of openness to grace. When doubts surface about whether you are doing it right, remember there is no universal rubric for healing. Each soul has its own pathway. Comparison steals energy and time. Return to what feels true for you. Experiment. Notice what nourishes you and what drains you. Trust your internal compass more than external prescriptions. Allow the idea of your life as a long, evolving story to soften the pressure of immediate transformation. This story will have chapters, some more luminous than others. Be the gentle editor of your life. Remove passages that no longer serve. Highlight moments of courage and add notes of compassion in the margins. This is ongoing work, and it is also sacred. Create a small sanctuary in your day, a place or a span of time that is only for you. It need not be elaborate. 10 minutes of stillness, a humming kettle, a window with a view. These pockets of peace will knit together into a larger sense of safety. Protect this time as you would protect an appointment with a dear friend. As you near the close of this message, receive one final reminder. Healing is a creative act that involves both surrender and intention. Surrender to what cannot be forced, and intend toward practices that support repair. These two movements, yielding and choosing, dance together. They will carry you through dark stretches into sunlight. Place now your hand upon your chest. Feel the steady rhythm there. Know that this life beat is both witness and witness bearer. It has carried you through each day up until now and will carry you further still. Inhale a slow, deep breath and hold the sense that you are being carried by love, by grace, by the tender constancy of something larger than your worries. Whisper if you like these words as a benediction. I am not alone. I am learning. I am allowed to be gentle with myself. I am opening to repair. These phrases are not magic spells, but reminders that align your heart with its best instincts. Go gently into the world now. Let your steps be measured. Let your intentions be steady. And let your heart expand in the small, brave ways you can manage today. You are moving from survival into flourishing, one careful breath at a time. I am near. I hold you in a light that is steady and fierce in its kindness. Walk on, tender, brave, and beloved, and know that each day you practice loving yourself, you remake the world a little